13 was absolute pain in fantasy. Huge busts, massive injuries. Hopefully you avoided these Week 13 landmines. Hey, before I talk about those players, let me remind you, if you haven't tried Underdog Fantasy, this is the perfect time because they're going to give all new customers this Trevor Lawrence special on Monday Night Football. He just needs to go higher than half a yard. You pair that with any other line or lines you like, and you could potentially 20x your money. And if you join now using our promo code ENDGAME, not only are you going to get that new customer special, they're also going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Take the money they give you, put it on the Trevor Lawrence line, combine it with any other line or lines you like, and potentially 20x it. We started the week with Seattle traveling to Dallas, and it was very tilting if you were going against Geno Smith or DK Metcalf. Two guys that had looked like absolute busts this year went off in a huge way and put you in a big hole. Nothing you can do about it, but it hurts if you're on the other side of it. Unfortunately, Tyler Lockett did not go off. A stumble on a potential long touchdown certainly hurt if you had him in lineups, but apparently Metcalf was inevitable this week. Look, Lockett's a volatile player. You got to take the good with the bad, and it wasn't like he was horrible. On the Dallas side, they continued to smash, and you got to be feeling good if you have any Cowboys in your fantasy lineup right now. Then Sunday came along and brought with it some huge injuries, starting with Tank Dell. This one really hurt. A broken fibula has likely ended his season. This is just brutal for the rookie who was looking so good this year. Prayers up to Tank Dell. Let's hope for a full recovery. This game was also brutal for anyone who started Devin Singletary. After dominating this backfield and putting up some big games recently, he got outtouched 15-9 by Dameon Pierce, and he didn't get the touchdown either. I hate to say it, but it looks like it's back to the bench for Devin Singletary. On the Broncos side, Courtland Sutton continued to score touchdowns, while Javonte Williams continued to not score touchdowns, even getting vultured by Russell Wilson at the goal line. That was extremely tilting if you started Javonte Williams, but honestly, it's feeling very risky putting Javonte Williams in your lineup right now. And if you're still putting Jerry Jeudy in your lineup, I can only assume you actually like pain. The Dolphins traveled to Washington, and as expected, they put it on the Commanders. But we had our second brutal injury of the day as Brian Robinson left this game late in the first half with a hamstring injury, never to return. This guy's been one of the best late-round running back picks of the season, so let's hope he's okay. We're definitely going to have to monitor this. And then there's the curious case of Terry McLaurin. 0 catches? I mean, it's been a down year for him, but this was absolute rock bottom. Terry McLaurin is feeling barely startable these days, even in good matchups. The Chargers traveled to New England and gave us an absolutely unwatchable performance. But the worst part was seeing Ramondre Stevenson leave on a hip drop tackle. We've seen this tackle many times now. We know what this probably means. High ankle sprain, multi-week absence, just when he was starting to get rolling. This is awful for anybody that has Ramondre. And it's pretty awful for anybody who has Austin Ekeler, because he has looked absolutely cooked the last 3 weeks. Just killing fantasy teams right now. I get it if you're panicking. It feels right to panic. But I gotta say, he does get the Broncos, the Raiders, the Bills, and then the Broncos to finish the season. Those are 4 absolutely fantastic matchups. Now with that said, if he busts again next week against Denver, yeah, we are in full-fledged panic mode. And to a lesser degree, I think we need to be a bit worried about Justin Herbert as well. This offense just hasn't looked as explosive since losing Mike Williams, and I don't think Kellen Moore can save it. But again, the upcoming schedule is very good, so I'm not panicking just yet. The Colts traveled to Tennessee and pulled out the big win in overtime, but Zach Moss, chalk of the week, did not repeat his performance from earlier in the year against this defense. But he did have 19 carries and 3 targets, so the volume was there. Better days are certainly ahead for however long Jonathan Taylor is out, which let's hope it's not too long. And once again, Josh Downs did not smash in this spot, but worse than that was only 5 targets on a day Minshew attempted 42 passes. That is not encouraging. Maybe we were a bit too high on Josh Downs. Maybe we need to pump the brakes just a little bit. And King Henry continued to rumble in a great matchup at home, but unfortunately, he left with a concussion, another big injury. Losing Henry for a week once he started to roll would be a big blow for teams fighting for the playoffs. If he does happen to miss, Tyjae Spears is going to be a strong start in week 14. Then the Steelers and Cardinals game, this one felt like it would never end because of weather delays, but they did eventually get it in, and James Conner ran all over his former team. I'm sure that felt great for him and anybody who had him in their fantasy lineup. And we had another injury as Marquise Brown left this game with a heel injury. He's been dealing with this heel injury for weeks now. Let's hope this wasn't the one that causes him to miss significant time though. We'll have to see. And on the other side, the Steelers lost Kenny Pickett. He finally had a decent matchup and then he left early with an ankle injury, which seemed to help pretty much no one on this offense because Mitch Trubisky should not be starting in the NFL. Even against the Cardinals, no one did a whole lot. I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's hope Kenny Pickett can actually play in Week 14. The Lions went to New Orleans, and of course, we had another injury. But are we really going to miss Derek Carr? I don't think so. Let's just see what Jameis can do for this offense at this point. Derek Carr is obviously not the solution in real life or in fantasy. Just give us Jameis Winston, even if Derek Carr is healthy. And after looking like a potential league winner, Jahmyr Gibbs has now had back-to-back down games, but this never really felt like a big Gibbs game. I mean, a tough defense, game script not in his favor. You can't be panicking here. Better days should be ahead. The Falcons traveled to New York for a game between two awful quarterbacks that turned into a game between three awful quarterbacks because Tim Boyle got benched for Trevor Siemian, but it wasn't any better. I'm not even joking when I say Zach Wilson is sadly the best quarterback on this roster. Everybody wanted him benched. Oh, it can't get worse. Well, yes, it can get worse. And guess what? If they go to Trevor Siemian, that's going to be worse as well. At least Zach Wilson can run a little bit, can make some plays. If you have any Jets players, you should honestly be hoping it's Zach Wilson next week. Now on the Falcons side, Bijan did not smash this week, but he had 18 carries and 5 targets. Not many running backs out there get 23 opportunities. Better days are certainly ahead for him, especially with his upcoming schedule. Speaking of better days ahead, I don't think there are better days ahead for Breece Hall. 16 yards on 13 carries. Meanwhile, Dusty Dalvin Cook had 35 yards on only 9 carries. More than double the yards of Breece Hall, and Dalvin Cook is complete dust. Breece Hall looks far from 100% right now, and how much longer can they keep running this guy and getting nothing? He had some moments earlier in the year, but this feels very similar to Saquon Barkley the year he came back from ACL. Remember, he had a couple nice games, looked good, and then down the stretch, he was getting outproduced by Devontae Booker. Look, next year, in 2024, Breece Hall will likely be a beast. In 2023, I'm not even sure he's startable. In the late action, Carolina went to Tampa Bay, and at least they made a game out of it, but Adam Thielen was not a part of making a game out of it. He looks like a forgotten man in this offense. Is he wearing down? Are they getting more young guys involved? Maybe both? I mean, probably both, but for fantasy, does it matter? Those big games from Adam Thielen early in the year feel like they were an eternity ago. This is 2 straight absolute bust weeks for Adam Thielen. It is no doubt time to bench him, or maybe even drop him. San Francisco went to Philly in what was supposed to be the game of the week, but instead the 49ers just rolled the Eagles. But other than DeAndre Swift, who, look, we knew he was in a bad matchup, and we said no to DeAndre Swift a lot on our start-sit shows, this game was overall pretty good for fantasy purposes, so at least there was that. Finally, the Browns went to LA, and I'm not sure Joe Flacco can save this offense, but he's probably the best chance they have. Unfortunately, we lost yet another player to injury in this one as Amari Cooper left with a concussion. Would Flacco have made him relevant? We may never know, but now we may never find out. And if you started David Njoku like I did, this was absolute pain. The other tight end, Harrison Bryant, had 5 catches and a touchdown. Why? Njoku, meanwhile, did almost nothing. If Flacco remains a starter, which seems likely at this point, I'm not sure how good we could feel about David Njoku. Then on the Rams side, we got to talk about Cooper Kupp. While he did score to save his day very late in the game, this didn't feel like a good Cooper Kupp game. We can't be feeling great right now. Puka Nacua looked awesome. Cooper Kupp, not so much. Look, maybe he'll be okay rest of the season. Maybe he won't be an absolute total bust, but I don't think vintage Cooper Kupp is walking through that door.